World, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Sales TV, the North American edition. Today we have our familiar crew. Let's go around the horn real quickly. Some brief introductions. Adam, will you kick us off, please?
I'm Adam Gray, co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm loving what's going on with Sales TV. You know, I'm loving the way the conversations are developing and what a great audience we have.
Agreed. Thank you. Alex.
I concur. My name is Alex Abbott. I'm the founder of Sapiro, and Sapiro helps empower people and organizations create conversations in the world of sales, something that I think is quite difficult to do for many. And before we move on to Tim, can I just say how much of a Formula One fan I am, and how much Adam may not like the T-shirt that I'm wearing. I don't know if you can just see the numbers.
No, stand back a little. Let's get a. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that.
All righty then. Thank you for that, Alex. Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. I'm famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Change Makers. I'm not a Formula One fan. I have no idea what your T-shirt's about.
Okay. Lewis Hamilton's number 44.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
His helmet.
And I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results. Unlike Tim, I'm not famous for anything. I have not written a book.
You will be very soon, Professor.
I will be very soon. Thank you. Thank you for that. And like Adam said, I am very excited about the direction Sales TV is headed. Lots of great conversations have happened already, and looking forward to significant conversations coming up. So speaking of great conversations that took place, it's my understanding that on the Sales TV EMEA edition earlier today, there were some fantastic conversations around psychological safety in sales. Somebody want to catch us up?
Yes. This morning we had a guest on, and we talked about a number of things, and one of those things was to do with psychological safety. And the definition of psychological safety is running an environment where, or a meeting where anybody feels that they can speak up. So we actually did a role play where, so Alex, for those that don't know, has an online persona called the Bearded Sales Guy. Did I get that right?
No, you got that right.
And he actually went into role by putting his tie on and his jacket on.
Yes.
And we went through this role play of, bearded sales guy is an amazing salesperson, hitting his number every year, and what happens that we then promote that person, and quite often, sometimes that doesn't work out. Yeah. And we then talked about the need for psychological safety around if something happened where maybe the new manager came in and they were a great salesperson, but not necessarily a great leader, that may have an impact on what was going on.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me was the fact that in an industry that is under immense pressure to deliver in the face of, I know we talked about this many times before, but the economic pressures, it's putting salespeople and teams under so much pressure that they're kind of being forced to do the same things over and over again, knowing that they're not getting the results that the organization needs, and that's in essence causing this mental health endemic within sales. We've had Jeff Risley from the Sales Health Alliance on before, talking about the fact that 79% of salespeople are highly stressed, 63% are suffering with poor mental health.
So let's just pause there, and let's just say those figures again, because that's truly shocking, isn't it?
79% of salespeople are suffering from high or experiencing high levels of stress.
So 4 out of every 5 people in sales.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. And 63% are suffering with poor mental health. And I'm making an assumption here, but I'm pretty sure that there's a few that didn't put their hand up and say, I'm suffering with poor mental health.
Probably.
And
they were too scared to.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 are feeling stressed. As a sales leader, I'm wondering, what's wrong with the 5th guy? If you're not worried about making your number, maybe this isn't the right job for you. Am I off base here?
Well, that's how many sales organizations operate. It's very Glengarry Glen Ross, isn't it? It's not necessarily a nice place to be. And I think that one of the things that came out of this morning's conversation is that as people like us that used to hold up Glengarry Glen Ross and the boiler room and things like that as being great examples of what a sales organization should be, people that are entering the workforce, well, actually not even entering now, are transitioning through the workforce and getting more senior in their positions, simply will not tolerate that as a working environment. And that's exactly why I think Andy said about that there's 700,000 unfilled sales roles in North America. And is it any wonder when that's the environment, when you've got an environment where 63% of people are suffering with mental health issues and nearly 80% of people are feeling stressed? No wonder people don't want to join the industry, and no wonder people that are in it leave.
Conrad has made a great point there about there are so many salespeople who suffer from stress and anxiety, but none will admit it or feel they should not admit it as they may be deemed weak or no longer suitable for the job.
Yeah. So so I struggle to understand how, when Rebecca was talking this morning about creating psychological safety, I struggle to understand how a sales leader can in fact create that psychological safety where someone feels totally comfortable about saying, I don't know, or I don't agree with this, just having their voice heard when they're under so much pressure to do more with less, do the same stuff that isn't working.
But I think that in many, there are many organizations that actually offer that level of psychological safety, where people are allowed to speak up. Whether that's executed on by the leadership or not is a different matter. But there are organizations where it is still command and control. I was talking to somebody recently where they'd gone into an organization and the new sales leader basically came in and said, look, this worked for me 20 years ago. It will work for you now. Get on with it. There's a telephone directory. Get phone in.
Right. Yeah. How innovative.
Yeah. So there are those things, but one of the discussions we had, Rob, was around the fact that there are quite often you get this balance, isn't it, between we want to do that, we want to be fantastic. Someone one of the comments was, we want to be an organization where there's fun, versus there's a number to be done, and what happens is you start the year having lots of fun, and then as you do less and less of the number and the gap gets bigger, there's less and less fun, because those fun things turn into cold calling days. Because what we need to do is that we need to get on the phone and actually sell some stuff.
Yeah,
right.
We've all been there.
Sounds familiar.
And then September, the expenses are cut.
It reminds me a little bit of a conversation I was having with somebody last week. I was coaching him regarding his resume. He's with an organization, and he's thinking of moving on. He's the top performer at this organization, but this year he is making literally half what he made last year. He was the top performer there last year also. And he was asking me, well, how do I put this performance on my resume? How do I look for a job if I've got this underperforming year? And what I was saying to him was, not always are the quotas set properly, but you can work with whatever quota you've been given in the context of anchoring it. So yeah, you hit 130% of your number last year, and you can easily put that on your resume. This year you hit 58%, and you don't want to put that on your resume. What if instead we anchor it? Last year, you were the top performer in your organization. This year, you're the top performer in your organization. It's the same information, just conveyed differently. So how can leaders help? Well, first of all, pay attention. If your top performer went from 130% to 58%, maybe it's not the sellers. Maybe there's another problem at hand, and address that. And then,
but from an organizational perspective, that's great, isn't it? You know, Tim did 130% of his number last year, which means that he got all of his on-target earnings, plus he got another 30% of bonus and a half, plus kickers and whatever else. This year, he's earned 58% of target, which means he doesn't make any commission. That's tremendous, because I get him for his base salary. So the fact that I've moved the goalpost, he's still selling. In fact, he's selling more stuff than he did last year. But I've moved his target so far that I am actually getting the same amount of work, more revenue, but for less money. That's great, isn't it?
In the short term, sure. But as I said, he's already looking for his next role. And we know that's expensive to the organization.
Daniel, by the way, you are in this meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you. Thank you for being there. It's an important point, actually, Rob, about recognizing the signs that if you have someone that's actually making their number and then all of a sudden they're not, it's not necessarily, you've got to find the reason why that's happening, rather than just saying, right, you need to go on a personal improvement plan or something. You can add comments, Daniel.
In fact, Daniel, you are adding comments.
You add comments. All you need to do, because you're on LinkedIn, Daniel, all you have to do is write under that and form comments, and then you're in the meeting.
There's no phone in. There's no way to bring you on live, Daniel.
No, we'd love to. You can. I think you can do a phone. Anyway, no, there's a different. So yeah, but it's true. I remember I was thinking this over lunch, for following on from the conversation this morning. I remember working for an organization that both Adam and Alex had worked at as well, where we had a massive review of targets, because targets were, it's $1 million this year, so next year it will be $1.5 million, then it'll be 2, then it'll be 2.5, and then we found we couldn't recruit anybody because everyone kept saying that the targets are too big. So actually we went back to something realistic, and I still think the targets at that organization have been the same pretty much since I've been left 7 years. They don't actually put the targets up because they need to actually understand there needs to be some sense of realism in terms of the targets.
Yeah, I love the fact when I'd have that conversation to say, here's what I think our team can deliver next year based on our value proposition, our average order, and our close rate, and the size of our territory. Oh no, that's fine, but here's your number.
Yeah,
I'll just pick a number from the air. It's finance has given you this number.
But that's the difference between top down and bottom up working and planning. And many organizations, as you say, are very top down, and others are bottom up, and others basically do, go through a process. If your calendar financial year, you'd start that conversation in October in terms of working out, well, this is what we want to do. This is our ambition as an organization. And we go to sales, and then sales say, we can never do that. Okay. So how could we do it? Well, you need to give me another 5 people. Okay. That's a bit expensive, and there's this conversation that goes on between
that results in demotivation and the opposite of psychological safety.
Alex, it was interesting as you were listing, this is our territory, this is what I think we can deliver, and so on. All of those were internal factors. Not one of those factors that you listed were external. As in, sometimes markets have a downturn. Right now, are we on the precipice of a recession? Who knows? But internally, that same organization that was telling you to sell more told somebody else to spend less. Why are the sales targets not aligned with the spending allocation? Hey, if we're going to reduce our spending, maybe we should be reducing the sales goals as well, or vice versa.
Yeah, but that's not the way that organizations work, which comes back to Tim's comment earlier about you're going to do it this way because that's how I did it 20 years ago. In fact, 20 years ago, just last month, MySpace was founded, August 2003. And, from that moment on, the world was never going to be the same again. And yet people are still using the same techniques that they used before MySpace came along.
Just remember, cold calling is 40 years old. Email marketing, from the 1980s. Email marketing is from the 1990s. It's 30 years old.
Yeah.
There are people that are using those techniques that weren't even born.
Yeah. and what's really interesting is that people are still treating those things as if they are cutting edge in many ways. I've got a really good script. I've got a fantastic new way of structuring the email that I'm going to send out to people. And it's this kind of behavior, the belief that these things still have any kind of relevance, that just it's what's put organizations in the situation they're currently in.
Oh, Adam, no. Email is fine. You're just using the wrong words.
Oh,
you uncover the magic words and it will be fine.
And actually what I need is that 47 touch points across all of the different omni channels, so I can make sure I get blocked everywhere rather than just on email.
And automation can help you with that.
And you need to have sent the 3,576th email, highly tailored.
Because the 75th one, obviously, that won't activate the customer.
Yeah.
So I saw something on LinkedIn the other day, which I thought was hilariously funny, and I thought I'd share it with you. And this was somebody, and they said, if you're calling, so if I'm calling you Alex, I shouldn't make more than 10 cold calls.
Who said that?
I'm not going to name the person, am
Okay.
I?
Is that? I had something the other day that was you need to have called someone 11 times. Is
that right?
Yeah, but salespeople only call them 1.5 times or something.
Yes, I shared that statistic.
Okay,
it wasn't called necessarily. It was. Let's see if I can remember. About 6 or 7 years ago, there was a study done saying that the average number of touch points, and touch points were measured by the combination of phone calls and emails, and that was it. The average number of touch points it needed to schedule a meeting was 11. And the average number of touch points the sales representatives completed was 1.5.
So if you think about the stats that we shared earlier and the high levels of stress that salespeople are under, is it because they're not making enough touches with their buyer, or is it because they're tired of making those calls, sending those emails, and they're not getting a response?
Neither. It's automation solved that gap between 11 and 1.5. automation solved that problem, but it created a whole slew of different problems. Now you can send me 11 touch points. Guess what? I am tuning you out because you're sending me 11, as are the 3,000 other people reaching out to me at any given time. I'm about to start teaching an intro to marketing class tomorrow, and I'm so looking forward to it. But I'm also terribly nervous because even the textbook that we're working, which was just updated 2 years ago, maybe, and let's say it took a year in production, it references COVID, so it's relevant enough. It feels to me like it's outdated in many ways because the things that we used to know about sales and marketing seem to be the things that we still know, but now they're not true.
Why don't you start the program by handing out a sheet where you basically say, "Can you give me your email?" And I'm going to start sending you emails and see how many people give their email out.
Yeah.
They probably will, because you're the
Yeah.
you're a senior person, and they'll just it's like, but there's a you got to make a point, haven't you?
Right.
Yeah.
I think the thing that is amazing is that everybody finds this behavior intrusive. Even if you've been and browsed something on a website and then you go somewhere else and that thing you were looking at follows you around the internet to all of the partner sites in the Google network. And it doesn't stop when you've bought the thing. It keeps promoting this thing to you over and over and over again. And what it does is it ensures that you will never do business with that company again, that sort of behavior. And but increasingly, I think there will be tools that come out. The opportunity for somebody working in the AI space is to create the tools that stop this sort of thing from happening. So a guy did a TED talk about this. He started a company called the Jolly Roger Telephone Company, and it's an automated voice that sits in between your line coming in and the phone on your desk, and it identifies whether or not it's a number. So Rob, I don't mind getting calls from him. Tim, I don't want to get calls from him, so he's not in the approved list. And what it does is it's an automated voice that talks to the person, but it's not obviously automated, and it gives responses based on what they're saying. And the idea is just to suck up as much of the time of that person as you possibly can, in order that in the end they give up and just don't phone you back. And I think that increasingly we're going to see that sort of thing happening. The opportunity of digital communications and automation has created this tsunami of people that can, with little or no overhead of their time, can do an almost limitless amount of outbound calling. And eventually somebody is going to come up with something which will stop all of that outbound calling. And then we'll be back to square one again. We'll have to go and meet people face to face and try to get a relationship with them. Ironically, that's the bit of selling that works today, isn't it? In the same way that worked 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie wrote a book.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he?
So that's all well and good. But I'm a sales rep. I have a number. I need to meet it, and I'm not meeting it. I am stressed. What's a salesperson to do?
Well, I think there's a lot they can do, but I think they need to start with having a conversation with their sales leadership, because touching on, I think, something that Adam had mentioned earlier, and actually it was mentioned this morning by Rebecca when she said, we need to diagnose the problem. The problem needs to be diagnosed before we can go about solving it. And I was thinking at the time, and I didn't say anything, that our sales industry, sales teams is full of opinion. Everybody's got the answer, and everybody will throw their opinion in the ring, and new ideas, will try new things, but no one really stops and puts the brakes on and says, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And the problem is, I think, the sales funnel is broken. And we're trying all of these new techniques, these new ideas, these new scripts, these new this, new that. But fundamentally, the sales funnel is broken, and we're spending all of our time in the 3 to 5% of the funnel, like everybody else, searching and qualifying buyers that are just not interested in buying.
I believe the expression is polishing a turd.
Yes.
Alex, I heard you say that you don't believe they're doing enough analysis of the problem, and before they come up with the solution. I think you're on the right track, but I also think they believe they are.
I think they believe they are.
They get to, all right, what is the problem? The problem is we're not hitting quota. And they stop there. Okay, let's move to the solution. They don't do the 5 whys. You're familiar with the 5 whys?
Tell us, Rob.
It's a root cause analysis session. When you ask, what is the problem? And the answer is, well, we don't have, we're not hitting quota. That's not the answer. That's just your first opportunity to then ask why. Why are we not hitting quota? Well, this, that, and the other. Why is that the case? And by the time you get to the 5th iteration of this, very often the answer is something along the lines of, well, that's just the way we've always done things. And when you get to that, that's where you know you have your starting point. Okay, so we can do something different. What is different? And how does it solve all of these whys that we've uncovered? So it's not that they're not solving the problem in their belief. It's that they're not discovering the root cause. At least that's what I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is 5
Absolutely.
whys enough?
Sometimes no. But don't stop prior to 5 whys. If you've got a group that's on a roll, keep digging.
Do you think, though, that sometimes there's a certain amount of so I don't think that I think that the question is, we're not making a number, so we need to do something. So so what happens is that sorry, Steve, I was reading your comment at the same thing, and it price is something that we could come to. What happens is that immediately people say, right, well, we'll see what the latest thing is on LinkedIn. Oh, well, it's deal. What are they called? These deal things. And
Velocity.
These where you basically ring someone in, and then sequences. Basically, the latest thing is deal sequences. Right, we're going to implement deal sequences. I remember talking to an organization and quite recently, and they said, oh yeah, we're quite interested in social selling, and well, we've just implemented deal sequences. And I said, so how's that working for you? And he was like, well, it's not. Okay, but we've just implemented it. Right, okay, yeah, but we've got to give it a try. Okay, but it's not working for you, but deal sequences is the latest thing. And deal sequences will be talked a lot about on LinkedIn, and there will be a number of software vendors that deal sequences basically work for. Therefore, they will, people like Gong and Outbound and people like that, and therefore it suits them that narrative means that they sell software, and therefore what we'll do is, we're not making a number. Well, we'll go about and buy a piece of software, and we'll implement deal sequences.
But I think that the point with that is, it's easy. It seems like, oh, well, this will do the heavy lifting for me. And in fairness, you implement one of these things, and things do improve.
You'll get a 2-3% increase.
Yeah. So you're getting a 2 or 3% increase of the 3% of people that have got to that point. So the problem is that it is literally polishing a turd. It is at that point where there is so little stuff to work with that you get an improvement, and actually it doesn't impact the bottom line. And that's the problem. When you're sending 1,000 emails and you're getting a 5% response rate, where you get a 30% open rate, and that's as people preview them before sticking them in the trash and spam folder. But you get a 5% response rate. The problem is not the 5% and smoothing the 5%. The problem is the 95%, and everything is addressing the 5%. It's like, okay, so we'll put a deal sequence together for the people that have read the email, the people that have responded to the email, the people that have clicked through, the people that have taken an action with it. And actually, it's always a tiny little part of the program, isn't it? It's not what you actually want to be addressing.
It's a bit like that story, isn't it? That many you hear about during the Second World War. There was that program, wasn't there? That when the bombers came back, a program to work out where the bullets were hitting the plane. And then someone pointed out that actually it's the bombers that don't return are the people that you need to actually do the study on.
So it was about where the bullet holes were, and they were clustered in certain places, and people were like, okay, we need to put the armor there. No, you need to put the armor where there are no bullet holes, because those are the ones, as you said, Tim, that didn't come back. And I think that's the issue, isn't it? It's like everyone's focusing on the 5%, the people that have downloaded the white paper or have clicked on the email. And actually, that's not the issue. The issue is the fact that the overwhelming majority of people have deliberately ignored this stuff that's going out. And sending out more stuff, will increase the frequency, we'll add more touch points, we'll do more emails, we'll do them more frequently. That just drives that down.
Yeah.
We have a couple of comments. We want to make sure we get to them. So Steve Lacey had said, in my experience, it's more like price is the issue. This usually comes from a poorly trained sales team. I would push back on that, Steve, from two regards. First of all, I've always heard that if price is the issue, then the salesperson hasn't done a good enough job in building value. But to your point about a poorly trained sales team, well, if every prospect has a price issue and every salesperson is not delivering enough value, it's not necessarily a training issue. It could be a product issue. It could be a training issue. It could be market timing. There are a lot more factors in play.
For me, as a salesperson, and Steve, I've always sold a product that's been more expensive than my competition. And so do anybody who's, anybody who drives an Audi, a BMW, or a Mercedes, why did you buy those products? Because you can get, if you want to get a metal box with 4 wheels, you can buy a Ford, and they're way much better. They're far cheaper.
I have a Ford.
Yeah, particularly
I know you do.
An
ST, XR2, isn't it? and so price. But I did quite early on in my sales career, I did a negotiation course, and it was just really awesome about understanding the price dynamics between buyer and seller, and understanding the fact that people do actually buy more expensive products, and sometimes do. Same here, but reflecting on a team that isn't performing is where the point is being made. Yeah. And the usual, people give 10% discount when they actually only needed to give 3 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the sales leader comes in, gives it away because he thinks.
Speaking of sales leaders, we have a comment from Daniel.
Yeah, this is an interesting comment.
Sales management with zero vision is the issue holding me back from executing on Tim's recommendation to utilize social media to create interest among prospective buyers and develop a personal professional brand. From what I see, corporate sales management cannot assimilate an inspiring and new technical solution for customer problems.
Well, you've seen this, and I won't mention the person, but you can, Alex. A young person that has fairly recently been hired into a sales role because they're a social rock star. They publish something, it spreads way outside their network. They get loads of conversations off the back of that, And they are absolutely using social to drive interest and initial conversations that ultimately lead to pipeline and revenue. This person has started in a new role, and they are having enforced on them by the sales leadership KPIs, and they are being measured on the things that the rest of the sales team are doing that aren't working. Now, it could well be that you hire somebody in and they are the anomaly. You know, you say, everyone else, we want them to do 100 calls a week, and we want them to send 50 emails a week, and we want them to go to 10 events a month, and whatever the KPIs are. But this person is different because they've already got a global brand that people consume and take belief in. But when you take that person and then you try to mold them in the image of the unsuccessful salespeople in your organization, that is nothing short of madness.
Yeah. But then that highlights the problem that I was talking about earlier. These organizations are still working, their sales and marketing engine is still working in a traditional way, searching and qualifying that 3 to 5%. And that is causing the problem. But buyers are not interested, they're not engaging. Performance engagement rates are declining as a result. It's causing stress amongst salespeople. Something has to change, because, you know, an organization hires someone because they're the best in their field, and then they get them to work in a different way. It just doesn't make any sense.
So when you talk about the 3-5%, Alex, just let me to confirm, this is where you're getting, these are the three, this research that says 3% to 5% of the market are actually looking to buy your product and service at any one time.
Yeah. So HighSpot did some research on this. There was another academic paper. I forget the name. I can get it if someone's interested in who it was. But between those two pieces of independent research, it was found that the average, so the average percentage of a territory, any given territory that was in market for the solution that you have, was 3 to 5%. And so, you know, somewhere in between, could be lower, could be slightly higher, depending, but a good average was 3 to 5%.
And so when you say, so what you're saying is that everybody is focused on that, because if you look at LinkedIn and the knowledge that comes out of VC organizations, they will tell you that you're wasting your money talking to people that are not in market. So where is that wrong?
Well, that's fundamentally wrong, and the reason that's wrong is that, as Alex said, there's let's say 4%. 4% of people in your universe are in market, and you've got 20 competitors chasing those people. Yep. Those people identify themselves as being in market, and then it's a race to go after those people. And all of the vendors are clawing at one another to get to the front of the queue to have a conversation, because they all know that the person that first, because there's so much research that shows this, the first person to add value is the person that's most likely to get the deal. Now, the fundamental problem with this is, why are you focusing on the 4%? There's 96% of people that, if you've got a decent product, let's assume for a moment that you're a CRM vendor. Every business in the world needs a CRM system. Now, we haven't got one because we're too small. We haven't got one, or we're not in market to buy one because we're under contract for another 3 years to one of the big vendors in the market. Whatever the reason is, at some point down the road, we are going to need to buy a CRM solution to drive our company forward. And the problem is that at the point that we are aware of the fact that the market is there and people are starting to approach us, they're too busy fighting each other, and everybody's starting from the same point. If you create a big audience of people that are consuming your content about CRM now, there will come a point that that as a vendor, you get a head start. Wouldn't you rather, when someone announces that they're in market to buy something, wouldn't you rather have been talking to them for the last 6 months?
Yeah,
or the
before
last
you
year,
go,
last 4 years?
before you get to that point, Adam, I think it's important to say that if there is no so you're investing all of your time on searching and qualifying the 3 to 5%, but if there is no pre-existing relationship, there is no deal, because unless the buyer likes you, or unless the buyer feels like they know you, likes you, or trusts you, you are unlikely to win their business, because we know today.
Absolutely. But if you go into a coffee shop and strike up a conversation with somebody, are you going to have a better conversation with somebody that you met in the coffee shop when you've gone in to have a conversation with someone, or somebody that you bump into in the coffee shop that you've known for 5 years? And my point is that the vendors can create their own reality here, the salespeople. What they can do is they can say, my ideal customer looks like this. The person that buys my product, the person that facilitates a sale for me looks like this. So I'm going to try to form a relationship with everybody like that. Now,
that requires a very different approach. Not selling, but relationship building, to your point.
I wanted to share another comment we have from Ken Baldwin. I agree with the last comment, and I think this was referencing Daniel's comment. Great sales team are often throttled by management with zero sales experience who say sales is just a numbers game, which it isn't. Sales is understanding the problems that your product solves and finding customers with those problems. And that points back to what you were saying, the 3 to 5%. If they don't have the problem, they're not a potential customer and they're not going to buy. I have a sales quota today. I can make all the friends in the world that I want. They're not going to retire my sales quota. Is that the problem?
But partly, but I think that if you haven't got a long-term view, maybe you're going to make quota this quarter, this month, this year, but actually the stress that you're living is stress that will continue year after year after year. The idea of saying, okay, I'm going to put a stake in the ground now and I'm going to try to build a relationship with everybody that would be likely to be a buyer for my product or service at some point in the future, and I'll see which of those people walk towards me. You're all busy men. You're not going to have a conversation with me unless you see something of value in that conversation, which might be that you really like me, or might be that you're wanting to do some initial research before making a purchase on the product. So I have to make sure that I'm available and visible to all of those people. Now, the beauty of this is that I'm going to try to grow my audience by 1,000 people this year. So 4% of them are in market. Next year, I've got the 1,000 people that I'm going to grow it for next year, plus the 960 people from the previous year. The year after that, I've got 1,000 plus 960 plus 920. And every year, I'm going to grow that audience. So it becomes progressively easier for me to make my quota, progressively less stressful, progressively more enjoyable.
If only organizations let salespeople work in that way.
It's
absolutely
that gap that is the biggest challenge. I can't afford the time right now. Yeah.
But the
yep.
Comment.
Take it, Tim.
Consultative selling helps in achieving sales team's vision, which include the target, especially when target the 96% that are not in market or undecided segment. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And with that, we're at time. We will wrap up yet another edition of SalesTV, the North American episode. Fast facts, latest thinking, chats about the world of sales. If you are interested in continuing the conversation, we invite you to continue the conversation on the SalesTV LinkedIn group. You'll see our alternate personality, and you'll see a number of other comments and conversations taking place there. Until next week, Tim, Alex, Adam, and everyone in the audience, thank you very much.